let's work on the trig test review. First question, we want to solve the triangle using the law of sines or cosines. I'm going to need my calculator for this one. I might not show everything, but what I notice on this one is I've got three sides. Hey, but then I notice right away I've got a right angle. If I've got right angle, I don't have to use the law of sines or cosines. I can go ahead and use right triangle trigonometry with Sohcahtoa. So I'm going to start with angle B, and I think on that one I'm going to use the sine because I know the side that's opposite, and I know the hypotenuse. So the sine of B is going to be this opposite over the hypotenuse, and I'm actually looking for B, so B is going to be the inverse sine of 8 over 17. And I could have used the law of cosines to do this, but I think this one is just going to be easier. So then in my calculator I hit second sine 8 over 17, and I want to make sure that I am in the correct mode. I just realized I am in radians, and if you get an answer of 0.48, you are in the wrong mode. So let's try that again. Second sine 8 divided by 17, and I get 28 degrees. And that does seem reasonable. And then I know the angle C, that all three angles have to be add up to 90, or add up to 180, so I can just take 180 minus 90 minus 28, and I get 62. And I'm rounding to the nearest degree on this one. Alright, on this one, I have to find side T. So, right there, I can make a ratio. So I'm going to use the law of sines. So 10 over sine 42. And there's going to be my other ratio is going to be side T over sine 104. And on that, I'm just going to cross multiply and then divide. So the sine of 104 times 10, and then divide that by the sine of 42, and I get 14.5. On the next one, I want to find side W, and on that one, I don't have any of the other angles, so I'm not going to be able to form a portion. So I'm going to use the law of cosines. So this will be W squared, because I know the angle opposite is going to be 12 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 12 times 7, and I'm not writing the original law of cosines down. You can look that up if you need it. Cosine 80 degrees. And now it just becomes some calculator work. So 12 squared plus 7 squared, and I get 193. And then I'm going to subtract 2 times 12 times 7 times the cosine of 80. I get 163, but I need to take the square root of that. And I get 12.8. Alright, on this one, I want to find the area. Well, I know two sides and I know the inclusive angle, the angle of those two. So I'm going to use that formula that I gave you for area. Area is 1/2 the two sides. In this case, it'll be 2 times 4 times the sine of 26. I suppose if you wanted to, you could just use some right triangle trigonometry and figure out that height, but I think this is easier. Then it just becomes calculator work. 1/2 times 2 times 4 times the sine of 26, and I get 1.75. Find the side of r. Again, I'm thinking that I'm going to have to use the law of cosines because I'm not going to be able to form any ratios. So r squared, and I know the angle opposite that, so that makes it easy. 8 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 8 times 14 cosine 52. And again, it just becomes calculator work at this point. So 8 squared plus 14 squared, I get 260 minus 2 times 8 times 14 times the cosine of 52. And I get 122. Need to take the square root of that. And I get 11. That seems like a reasonable answer based on the other two sides. All right, on this one, I need to find x. I think I'm going to use a law of sines on this one. I'm just going to, for fun, find that other angle. I know triangles have 180 degrees. That's going to be 17 degrees. So my first ratio is going to be right there, and that'll be 14 over the sine of 35 equals x over the sine of 128. I'm going to cross multiply. So the sine of 128 times 14 divided by the sine of 35, and I get 19.2. And that seems like a reasonable answer based on the other side. All right, find the area. Okay, well, I know two sides, 22 and 18, and I know the angle that is formed with those two, so I'm going to take 1/2 times 18 times 22 times the sine of 63. Calculator work at this point. 0.5 times 18 times 22 times the sine of 63, and I get 176.4. Solve this triangle. So that means I need to find everything there. So I'm going to start with one of the angles. I'm going to have to use a lot of cosines since I don't know anything else. I'm going to start with angle V. So the side opposite of that is 14. So I would have 14 squared equals 5 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 5 times 12 cosine v. Well, comes calculator work on this time. So I'm just going to put everything in my calculator, but I'll talk through it. So I'm going to take 14 squared, then minus 5 squared, minus 12 squared. At this point I have 27. I need to divide it by what's in front of the cosine, so divide that by -2, and divide that by 5, and divide that by 12. And I have -0.225. Now I need to do the inverse cosine because I'm looking for an angle. And I get 103 degrees. Well, now I'm just going to use the law of sines, I think, because I can make a ratio right there of 14 over the sine of 103. And let's go ahead and do u next. And that's going to be 12 over the sine of u. So I'm going to have to cross multiply and divide. So I'm going to take the sine of 103 times 12 divided by 14, and I get 0.83. Well, I'm looking for the angle measurement, so I'm going to have to do the second inverse sine, and I get 56.6. And that is for u. W, just add those two angles up and subtract it from 180, and I get 20.36. Did I say 56 point? Right, 56.6 right there. Okay. There we go. All right, on this one, I want to find IJ, which would be that side right there. Okay, well that's a 45-degree angle. That's 90. This means that it also is 45. Well, I can do this two different ways. I can use special triangles, or I can think back to geometry. If both angles are 45, the two sides have to be the same. So x squared plus x squared equals square root of 86 squared. So 2x squared equals 86. X squared equals 43. X is going to be the square root of 43. Which makes sense because the hypotenuse of a special triangle is going to be the leg times the radical 2. So again, we've got a 45-degree angle here. And this time I'm definitely going to use special triangles. You know the hypotenuse, the leg, times radical 2 is the hypotenuse. Therefore, the hypotenuse is hypotenuse divided by leg, radical 2 is the leg. So this is going to have to be 8. So no math really involved on that one. All right, another right triangle. I'm just going to use the Pythagorean. Oh wait, we're finding angle U. Guess I should read the directions carefully. Angle U, let's see, so I know the hypotenuse and I know the adjacent. That makes me think cosine. Cosine U is going to be 18 radical 2 over 12 radical 6. And I'm going to need my calculator for that. radical 2 divided by 12 radical 6, and I get, oops, got something wrong there. I think I typed something in. Let me try that again. 18 radical 2 divided by 12 radical 6. I get 0.866. That seems more reasonable, but I'm looking for the angle, because that's what the cosine of the angle would be. So I have to do second cosine, that answer, and I get 30. Which means I could have used special triangles. I wasn't thinking hard enough on that one. Find angle V. And I know that this one is going to be 40. It is a special triangle. This is going to be a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And I just looked at the ratios and based kind of on the last problem. This is my short leg, and it could be 4, and the long leg is the short leg times radical 3. So to find the short leg, I just divided that by radical 3, and the hypotenuse is twice the short leg. All right, arc length. I've given it to us already in radians, so that is nice. Arc length is S, and that's going to be your angle times your radius. In this case, your radius is 1. Not sure where I wrote down R. I meant to write down 1. And that's going to be really easy. It's just going to be pi over 6. If you wanted to give it as a decimal, just take 3.14 divided by 6. On this one, take the angle times the radius, and you're going to get pi over 4. All right, that looks like it's it. Enjoy.